Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, I've been reading quite a few articles about Taye Diggs making comments about black women and comments about his decision to no longer date outside of his race. And what I want to do is I want to read some excerpts from this article right here, and then I'm going to provide my commentary. But first, I'm going to provide some background information about Taye Diggs and background information about this particular interview. So, as you all know, Taye Diggs was married to a white woman for years. And while he was married to this white woman, he did a lot of black films about black romance and black love. And so he did this interview recently on a podcast, on the Red Pill podcast. And he was asked about the attitudes of black women towards him for dating outside of his race. And he basically said that some black women were salty. And then he was asked whether or not he had any kind of resentment towards these black women who were quote unquote salty. And this is basically what he said. He said that yes, he did have some resentment. And he went on to say this. He said, I mean, deep down inside, there's resentment. I don't want to say I suppress it, but I just watch it. And when it happens to you personally, even though you understand the logic, there's trauma there. And I don't know if I can ever mess with a white girl now. So he's saying because of this trauma, because of this experience, because of this hostility, he doesn't feel like he can be with a white girl at this point. And then he went on to talk about like why he's dealing with just black women right now. And he talked about how it's limiting his options and how he feels about that. So he said this. He said, I don't like that. That goes against who I am as a person. Feel like I've had to deal with that so long, it's changed what I think I like, what I'm attracted to. It might be racist, and I don't want to be racist. I'm not racist. I wasn't raised to look at someone's race and be attracted to one race more than the other. I think any psychiatrist or therapist would say it's textbook. So those are his statements. And the first thing I want to deal with is this issue of black women being quote unquote salty. I don't think that this is a question of black women losing any sleep because this guy was married to a white woman. I don't think black women were going through emotional distress. I don't think that black women were all outraged and ready to riot and protest because this dude, this Negro, decided to marry a white woman. I don't think it was that serious. I just think that it was a situation where sisters were disappointed. They were disappointed because this brother had been in all these black films, like The Best Man, for instance, like How Stella Got Her Groove Back, like Brown Sugar and The Wood. In all these films, he's in relationships with black women. He's loving black women. He's respecting a black woman. So I think that black women were just disappointed to see that his on screen life didn't reflect his real life. They saw that his respect for the black woman in the film was just that, respect for a black woman in the film. But in real life, the real woman that he idolized and loved so much was a white woman. So I just think that people were disappointed with that. You know, they weren't losing sleep and all that kind of stuff and so outraged about that to the point where they would not go to any of his films or anything like that. It wasn't that serious. So that's the first point that I want to make. The second point is this. You know, no one should be pressured into being with their own or to into loving their own. You know, that should be something that comes naturally. A black man should naturally gravitate towards a black woman or be attracted to a black woman because the black woman is a reflection of the black man. And when you love yourself, you love your reflection. You love your own women. You have respect for your own women. You celebrate your own women. You love your own women. And, you know, for him to say that he was pressured, you know, where he's basically suggesting that he was pressured to be with black women, that tells you that he doesn't really have any genuine love for the black woman in his heart. Because if he did, it would just come natural to be with black women. It wouldn't be something that you feel pressured into being with. And it kind of reminds me of that first black bachelorette. You know, that's one of the things that she kept saying during her interviews, talking about how she felt pressured to pick a black man. And we all know how that played out. All the brothers got eliminated, and she ended up with a white man, as expected. So, you know, the fact that she would say that and the fact that he would say that he feels pressured, that tells you that where these people's hearts are. Their hearts are with white people. This guy's heart is with white women, just like that bachelorette's heart was with white men. You know, and when somebody calls them on it, you know, calls them on the fact that they're dating outside of the race and all that kind of stuff, all of a sudden they want to talk about being pressured. And, you know, one thing that I have to point out before I move on to my other points is this. You know, I think that there's a lot of hypocrisy among some people. Like the same people that celebrated the bachelorette, this black bachelorette running around here kissing 100 white guys, are the same people that got something to say about Taye Diggs, man. And I just think that that's hypocrisy. I mean, I think that that kind of behavior should be condemned universally and not selectively and cherry picked, you know, where you just pick out the guys to criticize, for instance, and don't criticize the women for doing the same thing or vice versa. And, you know, before I go into this, you know, I just want to say this. Like, I just wonder about like some of these women who are so into swirling, they have moved on, they are beyond black and white, they don't need the black man anymore, they don't care about the black man. But you see these people constantly talking about the black man. I'm talking about a black man like Taye Diggs, bringing him up. And, you know, and I think that on a, you know, it serves a couple of reasons. There's a couple of reasons why these people do that. You know, the first reason, which I think is the true reason, is because these people really are still in love with the black man. They really want to find a good black man deep down inside. So I think that that's the first thing. And the second thing is this, man. You know, they like to use people like a Taye Diggs as a textbook example to justify their own buffoonery and coonery, to justify them running after these white guys like they've lost their minds. But anyway, let me get back on track to the main subject. So then this guy went on to talk about how he feels like it's racist to love your own, you know, how it's bigoted. You know, during the interview, he said he it was either racist or bigoted or whatever to just look at one race or to be attracted to one race and all that kind of stuff. It's not bigoted. It's not racist to love yourself and to love your own women. It's natural. That's what people should naturally do, as I said before. What's wrong with loving yourself? What's wrong with loving, you know, the women that gave birth to you, the women that raised you and stuff? What's wrong with loving your own black skin and your own natural black features? What's wrong with elevating and celebrating your own black woman? You see all these other people, groups of people, for instance, like, you know, white people, for instance, they elevate their white women. You know, they celebrate their white women. But yet you have buffoons like this, blind, deaf, and dumb black men like this, who think that loving their own women is somehow racist. And I think that that is absolutely ridiculous. And it just shows you how lost some of our people truly are. And there's a couple of things that I have to say before I conclude this video. The second, you know, the other thing that I want to say is this, man. If this guy feels so pressured to be with a black woman, if he feels that the only reason why he's with this black woman is because all these black people were mad at him for being with a white person, you know, I think he really needs to go where his heart is. If he loves these white people so much, he loves the white woman so much, and he feels so pressured to be with a black woman, then really he should go with the white women. You know, he should go ahead and continue to abandon the black community and be over there with those white folks that he loves so much, with those white women that he idolizes so much. Just be gone. Go ahead and be with those white people you love so much. Be with those white women. That's where you want to be. So don't let people pressure you if that's what you want, if that's where your heart is. If you don't have love for your own and you got to be pressured to be with your own, then go over there with the white women. Just go over there, man. Be gone with them. And I was listening to his interview, and he kept talking about like how he was really downplaying the fact that he had been in all these black films. He really looked down upon that. And he talked about how he really aspired to be a mainstream actor. And there's nothing wrong with somebody aspiring to be more and more famous, more and more wealthy, and all that kind of stuff. But really, at the core of what this man was saying during that podcast is that he wants white acceptance. He wants to be celebrated by white people. This man talked about white, quote unquote, white famous. That's what he seeks. So he didn't really see these black films as like all of that. He really aspired to be mainstream and in some white movies and stuff like that, cast just like any other white actor would be cast. So really, it was all about white acceptance for him. And really, these black films were just stepping stones for him, and that's apparent when you see that he, despite being in all these black romances, he wasn't really feeling black women like that. He didn't really have love for black women like that. And I think at the end of the day, he don't really have love for black people like that as a group. He wants white acceptance. That's what he wants. He wants to be quote unquote white famous, and he's disappointed because he didn't attain that kind of status. And I think that this desire to be accepted by white people manifests itself when people like this decide to date and marry white women. What better way to be accepted by white society than marrying one of their own? I mean, because that brings you into a white family, and it makes it seem like you're more assimilated into the society. And I just think, I mean, this just reflects that self-hatred, man, that a lot of dark-skinned African American men and women wrestle with. And I think that for black men, this self-hatred, this hatred towards their dark skin manifests itself in hatred towards their own women. This desire to date outside of the race, marry outside of the race, have children out, with white women, so that you have children that don't look like you, children that are lighter than you, that don't have to go through the colorism that you experience. So this issue is really deep. But those are my thoughts about this. Tell me what y'all think, man. So please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace. And before I go, I have to add this last point. You can't blame black women for your decision to no longer date white women. Black women don't have a gun to your head forcing you to date them. This is a free country. You have every legal right to date whoever you want to date. So quit blaming black women for your issues with white women.